I don't want anyone to think that if we bring the jury back in and the defense rests, that you've waived those rights. We've protected that.
Timely fashion.
Yes, thank you. Monday morning we could. We'll talk about it.
Oh, open behind you guys.
Up here, Mr. Boggs. No, we're going to put him in the witness chair. Right there. Yep, thank you. You can come just stand up here by the witness box, Mr. Alexander. Yeah, raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Go ahead and have a seat, Mr. Boggs. So, Mr. Boggs, you have been subpoenaed to testify in this case. I appointed Mr. Alexander to represent you because I believe that you need to know the extent of your legal rights before being called as a witness to testify. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Can you remove his mask? Thank you.
Judge?
Yes.
I'm just not sure if the jury is out there, but there's a very loud.
I'll shut the mics off. How about that?
That'd be great.
All right. You can still hear me though, right?
That's bad.
Okay. Please tell me your full name.
Patrick Michael Boggs,
Spell your last name.
Boggs.
And you've had an opportunity to talk with Attorney Alexander?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's explained to you the nature of what you would be subpoenaed to testify regarding?
Yes.
And at this time, do you choose to testify?
I choose plead the fifth, and did not testify at all.
So you're choosing to invoke your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you were called to testify, any questions you would be asked, you would invoke the Fifth Amendment, is that correct?
Yes.
And you would choose not to answer any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything further?
No, Judge. It's their witness.
Mr. Gorman, Mr. Riley?
Judge, based on his assertion of the Fifth Amendment, we would not have any questions for him, obviously, at this time, because he's not going to answer any.
All right, thank you. All right, Dennis,
Thank
you
you.
can take him to the jail, and then I'll do an order for a return.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, put your mask back
Put your
on,
mask
Mr.
on
Boggs.
first.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that correct?
Yes.
We just heard from Mr. Boggs.
Also, I reserved your right on Rule 29.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, Judge, we just heard from Mr. Boggs, who the defense wanted to call. The court prior to that has reserved our right to file a more, or voice a more formal oral Rule 29 motion for acquittal that we plan on doing, Judge, when the court sees fit, as long as the court finds that we've done that in a timely fashion. With that said, Judge, our first witness is going to be Mr. Boggs. And Mr. Boggs has indicated for the record, Your Honor, that he will not answer questions. Thank you, Judge. That Mr. Boggs will not answer questions as it relates to any involvement he may have in this incident. The fire at 693 volts. He's indicated that he won't answer those questions. He will assert his Fifth Amendment right. With that being said, Judge, we obviously didn't have any questions for him. We have talked to Mr. Ford, Your Honor, about the defense case and witnesses that we could call, including obviously Mr. Ford, Your Honor. We made tactical decisions not to call other witnesses. I'll give you, for instance, Judge, we were able to get information out about the 693 volts matter, including the fact that Mr. Boggs was a suspect and why he was a suspect, and what Mr. Selby said he said, which negated the necessity, because we had under subpoena, Your Honor, the deputy and I believe the deputy supervisor from the Portage County Jail. We also had Mr. Selby under subpoena as well. But since we were able to elicit that information today in a different manner, we've made a tactical decision, a legal decision, Judge, not to call those folks as witnesses in this case. And that it comes down now, Judge, to whether or not Mr. Ford wishes to testify in this matter. And we've told him repeatedly, Your Honor, that he has the constitutional right to either testify or not testify. We've gone over with him, Judge, where the burden of proof in this case lies. He's had the benefit of listening to all the testimony in this trial presented and understands that Nobody can make the decision for him but himself about whether or not he wants to testify. It is my understanding, Judge, and I'm going to ask you to inquire of him in that limited capacity about whether or not he's going to testify or not. It's my understanding that he is going to avail himself of his constitutional right not to testify. I have assured him, Judge, that there is a jury instruction under Ohio law that I know that you will read to the jury, which will tell the jury that the jury cannot in any way utilize the fact that he did not testify for purposes of deciding whether he is guilty or not guilty in this case during their deliberations. Having said all that, Judge, I'd ask the court to fill in anything you think I may have missed, because it's such an important right that Mr. Ford has, but I'd ask you to inquire of him.
Thank you. Mr. Ford, would you remove your mask? All right, so you've heard everything Mr. Gorman said, correct?
I did.
This is the time for your counsel and your case to present any evidence if you choose to. That includes your testimony. You understand that?
I do.
Under the Fifth Amendment, you have a right to testify or a right not to testify. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
If you testify, you'll be subject to cross-examination, which is questioned by the state of Ohio. You understand that?
I do.
You can also choose not to testify, and that means that cannot be used against you. They can't comment that you didn't testify. They can't use that against you, make any arguments that you didn't testify. Do you understand that?
I do.
And so you can choose not to testify for what Mr. Gorman's indicated are tactical reasons. Do you understand that?
I do.
And you've been advised and you've had an opportunity to talk both with Mr. Gorman and Mr. Riley about these decisions.
I did, Your Honor.
And have you decided not to testify?
I did.
I'd also want to inform you, Mr. Ford, that by choosing not to testify, the following instructions will be given to the jury regarding this. In this case, the defendant did not testify in his own defense. It is not necessary that the defendant take the witness stand in his own defense. He has a constitutional right not to testify. The fact that he did not testify must not be considered by you for any purpose. And that's what I'm going to inform the jury. And that's your understanding, right?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And then I just want you to understand that does not shift the burden. You don't have to prove anything. They never even had to ask a single question. We've had this conversation a couple times.
We did.
You're choosing not to testify, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ford. You can put your mask
You're
back.
welcome. Thank you.
All right, so other than that, Mr. Gorman, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Judge, no other witnesses pending the admission of defense exhibits. The defense would also be resting and, once again, renewing all prior motions and objections that have been made pre-trial and during trial, as well as, Judge, reserving our right to address this court in a timely made Rule 29 motion for acquittal.
All right, so after we do all of that in front of the jury, we'll set some times for doing all of those things. But I want to give you the opportunity to officially rest in front of the jury.
Yes, did you miss this?
Yes, they just did. So the one thing I am going to do, though, is after you rest, I'm going to go over the sequestration admonition. I'm going to give each of them a copy of that admonition because then they will not be returning back until Monday morning. So that will give us tomorrow and Friday to do whatever we need to do in preparation for jury instructions and closing arguments. All right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so it's 20 after 2. We have 10 more minutes of the break, so we'll take a break. Mr. D'Angelo?
We'll review exhibits when we do that.
Yes, so as soon as I go through all of them and give them their instructions and I release them for the day, then we can figure out how we're gonna go through or when we're gonna go through instructions. I think we had some time tomorrow morning set aside, so.
Judge, would it be okay if I was not here for the next, I don't know how long are you going to take with them?
It should be less than 10 minutes, maybe 15. You have something to do?
Well, it's one of those things where it's not imperative, but it's important that I can do. But let me just see if I can't figure that out. And
Okay,
we have 10 minutes anyway until it's
Right, exactly. Okay, all right, we're adjourned.
Some kind of court counsel, please, and give a section on Christian Church presiding.
Thank you, may be seated. Welcome back. Not yet, not yet. Mr. Gorman, are you ready to proceed?
Defense having, or the prosecution having requested, I would tell the court that subject to the admission of our exhibits, we are going to arrest as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the testimony portion of the trial. And I padded in an extra day just in case we needed to go over into Friday, because remember, we were not going to be here tomorrow. So we are going to actually take tomorrow and Friday off and the weekend, and then as I instructed you yesterday, we'll complete the trial on Monday with closing arguments and jury instructions. It's at this point in time that I'm going to advise you of what I did yesterday somewhat regarding the sequestration admonitions. I'm going to give you a copy of that for you to take because it has some valuable information. But I want to go over the highlights of it, and then I'm going to give you the admonition, and then you'll be released for the day. Counsel and I are going to take the next 2 days then to get everything else ready to go and shored up regarding jury instructions so that on Monday morning we're prepared to proceed. It's at that point in time then the sequestration process starts, which means you'll never be apart. You cannot deliberate if someone's going to the bathroom, but you will all be together at all times, including meals. And we will provide those and we'll adapt for anything we need to do. But the law requires that you be sequestered during the time period you are involved in your deliberations. The court and all court personnel will do our utmost to make your period of being sequestered as convenient as possible. However, you are required to follow certain rules and procedures when the jury is sequestered. We therefore provide you with the following information for you to use in preparing for the time that you will be sequestered. You will have a private room at a local hotel. The court will provide you with transportation to and from the courthouse to that hotel. On the morning of sequester, which is Monday, please park your vehicle in the Summit County parking deck located on South High Street, directly across from the courthouse. We ask that you park on this one on either level 5A or 6, because parking in this location will make it convenient for you to bring your luggage over the skywalk into the courthouse. We cannot assume any responsibility for your vehicle, and therefore we would recommend that you consider obtaining a ride to court. If you need to leave your motor vehicle in the parking deck, of course your parking will be paid. All televisions, telephones, radios, and other items will be disabled from your private hotel room during the time period that you are sequestered. This is due to the fact that we wish you to be free from outside influences during this period of time. Televisions will be available to you in a private juror lounge area set up for your convenience. Telephones will be available in the bailiff's command center and in the court security command center for your use if absolutely necessary. You'll be permitted daily to call home to let them know that you're doing fine. It's not a long conversation, but it allows you to make a phone call from a landline to let them know that you're at the hotel and that you're doing fine. We wish to minimize the phone calls, and all telephone calls must be monitored by either the bailiff or one of the court security personnel that will be assigned to this case. We apologize for this inconvenience, but it is necessary so as to maintain the absolute integrity and impartiality of the jury during its deliberations. Please also advise any family or friends should they make contact with you only in the event of an emergency. Under such emergency situation, although direct contact with you will not be possible, they may leave a message with the phone numbers we will provide you, and a message will be delivered to you. Please bring with you appropriate casual clothing for the courtroom setting. We would suggest also that you bring after-hours clothing. Please bring necessary toiletries, medications you are presently using, and any, of course, those personal items you deem appropriate. You'll also bring any recreational items, including articles that you find enjoyable, such as games, deck of cards, puzzles, needlework, etc. You may bring books, but all books will have to be declared and reviewed by court personnel prior to you being able to have those books in your possession. This is simply to try to maintain the integrity and impartiality of the jury during deliberations. Likewise, you may bring magazines, but these will also need to be reviewed by court personnel. You should not bring any form of a newspaper with you. Please bring your items in a suitcase, duffel bag, or other related container when you arrive. And then at the jury room that you initially checked in, and in the basement, you'll meet with Ruth. She'll take your luggage. She'll keep it secured until you're transported to the hotel. What not to bring. It's imperative that you not bring any television sets, small personal televisions. You may not bring a cell telephone or mobile telephone or pager. You may not bring any radio or any clock radio or any other Walkman type or tape player that contains a radio. However, you may bring a Walkman if it contains only CDs or cassette tapes or an iPod. I know some of these things are obsolete. And no internet and no laptops. We will ask you about these items prior to you being sequestered. You may bring a small travel clock that does not have any radio. Do not bring any books or reading material that have anything to do with crime or criminal law. All reading materials will be censored by the court personnel and potentially the attorneys involved in this case. And again, do not bring any newspapers. Page 4 will give you some emergency telephone numbers for daytime and nighttime. And then the general instructions are as follows. The court bailiff and all court personnel will not discuss the case with the jury, nor permit the jury to discuss the case with them. Social contact with the court personnel should be minimized during the sequestering process. Court personnel will, however, handle any needs that you may have concerning snacks, food, emergency situations, or other related matters concerning your stay. Again, televisions, telephones, radios, including all clock radios, will be removed or rendered inoperable. All telephone calls made by any jurors will be monitored. Telephones will be located in the bailiff's command center and in the court security command center should use be necessary. All jurors' rooms will be checked daily and secured prior to the jurors' return to their respective rooms. This is done to protect from any inadvertent material that may have been left in the room by cleaning personnel, etc., such as newspapers or other related matters that could compromise the integrity of the jury. Court security personnel will be on the floor and with the jurors at all times during the sequestering process. No juror under any circumstances is to leave the sequestered area without being accompanied by a member of the court security staff. Prior to leaving for the hotel, you will be asked whether you have brought any items that are not appropriate for you to have during the sequestering process. If you have forgotten or perhaps have brought along an item that you should not have packed, we will simply hold the item until after your deliberations and then we will then see that it is returned to you at once. We will provide, again, a television room or other entertainment room for you to use, and we will obtain court-approved videos for your enjoyment. The television room will be monitored by a member of the court security personnel. In particular, you're not permitted to watch any television broadcast that may have anything to do with this case. You should have no contact with individuals providing service to the jurors other than as may be necessary to request a particular service. For instance, you should have no contact with maids, waitresses, vehicle drivers, or others unless there is a necessary service you must obtain from them. Under no circumstances should you permit them to discuss the case with you, nor should you discuss it with them. Should any individual attempt to discuss the case with you, you should immediately report this to the court personnel. If at any point in time you see any evidence that the integrity of the jury has been compromised by any outside influence whatsoever, you should immediately report this to the court personnel so that you may contact the court at once. You may not bring any alcoholic beverages with you or consume while you are sequestered. Final instructions. We understand that this inconvenience of sequestering a jury causes to everyone's normal daily routine. Our court personnel will do everything possible to minimize the inconvenience to you. Any concerns concerning the sequestering process should be addressed to the court bailiff and in turn to the judge. Prior to you being finally sequestered, you will be provided with an opportunity to discuss any issues that you believe are important with the judge and will accommodate your needs in any way possible. We will make any accommodations necessary for any particular diet or any other matter that may be important to you. And then we're going to give you a copy of these orders to go with you. You've heard the evidence. You have not heard the instructions of law. You have not heard closing arguments. Therefore, the trial's not over. So again, I'm going to remind you, as I have done at every break and at the end of every day, you are not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, including family, friends, or the media. You must not post or read anything about this case on the internet or any electronic device, including your cell phone. Any such discussion, if discovered, could lead to a mistrial and would severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, and do not form or express any opinion on this case until it's finally been submitted to you. And again, so alternates, my 5 alternates, you will be sequestered in another room. Again, you are not permitted while they're deliberating. So I want to make it clear, when I say sequestered, I mean from the time you enter the courthouse on Monday, you're gonna be together. We're gonna stay as late as you all want to stay on Monday, probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. Dinner will be brought in, lunch will be brought in, all of those things. You're not gonna go back to the hotel at 5 and sit there for 12 hours. We're gonna work, and then when and only when you're ready to retire for the night, then everybody will be taken over to the hotel. You'll be brought back in the morning at 8 o'clock, and then you'll begin your deliberations again. You will not deliberate outside this jury room. The alternates, again, you're subject to the same rules, so no laptops, no televisions, no phones, so cards, games, whatever you want to do while you're waiting while they deliberate. And that is, if any of them is unable to complete their service, we will then fill in with alternates as needed, okay? All right, so I didn't want to start on Friday and sequester, maybe go through the weekend, which is why we're taking this extra long time, so that no one's weekend plans get disrupted. So this is why we're going to take this 4 days. I want you all to be safe and healthy and come back Monday morning, right? And follow my admonition. All right, thank you very much. Leave your notepads upside down, and then Mr. Mason will give you a copy of these instructions.
All rise, please.